time. Hey there to all my wonderful listeners tuning in out there. Welcome to Fractured Poet, a podcast for all of you poetically insane individuals who love getting lost in the art of poetry. Podcasting from Ontario, California, I am your host, Katrina Wisniewski, just another person in the world obsessed with words, striving to make sense of it all. During today's episode, I will be reciting 6 poems that are a little bit on the dark side. I was not really sure what to title this episode, or at least the type of poems I would be reading. The 6 poems I chose for this episode are somewhat eerie, maybe even creepy. I guess you can be the judge of that once I start reading them. But I will start with the first poem, which does not have a title. Haunted by your presence, I can feel you watching me. Lurking the corners, you have brought me to my knees. My vision is compromised. I am begging for mercy. Let me be. Please set me free from this darkened prison. This poem was thought up on a limb and pretty random. I was sitting outside waiting for an appointment I had, and I happened to take a picture of where I was sitting, and at first glance it was kind of creepy looking, which inspired this poem. After taking the picture I opened the note app on my phone and started writing, and the poem I just read was the outcome. I love when I get into moods like this because it comes out of nowhere. Moments when my mind and thoughts work together with little to no trouble. I can be sitting somewhere, like that day, and get an idea from things that surround me. I could be looking around, and it could be looking at absolutely nothing, and my mind just wanders, and then out comes a phrase, and I just start writing. I love it. Anyways, here is the second one. This one is called His Darkest Hour. He guarded the night once, the darkest night some called him, fighting crime, protecting the innocent. It's what he did best. No moments were spared, for he was what the city needed, a vigilante with wings. Unfortunately, times have changed. He is no longer what the city needs, betraying his city, corruption taking place on the inside, all done with his bare hands. However, the city still needs its knight, protecting the innocent from evil such as this. Okay, so maybe this wasn't as dark, but I'm sure you guys can kind of figure out who I was referring to in this poem. Couldn't tell you where this poem came from. I could have been watching Batman or had a conversation about Batman, or maybe it was none of the above. Who knows? But if you couldn't tell between this poem and poems prior, I love Batman. He is probably the only superhero-ish person I take interest in. I love the concept of Batman, and the villains definitely get my interest, especially Harley Quinn. I can't explain much more than that, so I guess I will move on to the next poem, which is another no title. Trapped in a room, left alone with only my thoughts. I can sense them staring at me, stalking me with their eyes, and judging my every move. I can hear them talking, unable to understand what they are saying, afraid to know what comes next. I crawl deep beneath the shadows, hoping they never find me. I wrote this poem back in 2017 at around 1 a.m. in the morning. This was probably another off-the-wall thought turning into a poem. Not sure where this one originated from, though. And if you're wondering or questioning, well, if you wrote this back in 2017, how do you know you wrote it around 1 a.m.? Well, I screenshotted the poem I wrote in the app the note app on my phone, and it shows the time at the top of the document, so it said 1 a.m., so that's why. But anyway, I think this poem can have a lot of different meanings if I really break it down and put some massive thought into it. I could very well apply this poem to life, my life, but maybe it doesn't mask my life the way it is described in the poem. I can't say it enough, but it really boggles my mind how I can even come up with half of the shit I write. One would think I have experienced the things I write about when I really haven't. Maybe that's also the reason why I titled this episode Darkened Words, because the poems that are generated through me are extremely dark and weird. Reasons why I kind of refer myself as poetically insane, because I feel like I kind of am. But the next poem, I might have read it to you before during the beginning episodes of this podcast, and I apologize if I have read this before, but this poem also does not have a title. In the dark, I wait, shoved in a corner like an abandoned rag doll. I wait for that moment of embrace, the sound of your heart beating, the warmth of your breath. I wait as the darkness pulls me in, slowly fading away. Will you find me? I also wrote this one early in 2017. Again, another poem that came out of left field, no inspiration, just a random poem jotted down one day. If I had to describe this poem or explain it, I would simply say that the person talking through the poem was scared of something. Whether they were scared of the dark, scared of being alone, scared of never being found, this person wanted someone to find them. Being put in a dark corner and only being approached when the occasion calls for it is definitely not a way to live. This person needed to be embraced by love and twisted in someone else's arms to feel that comfort. This could refer to the feeling someone has when he or she is depressed, wanting a way out but can't figure out how to get there. No one is ever able to understand your position or understand what you are going through. Depression is not something you can always snap out of. It draws out and lingers, taking down every part of you you've worked so hard to maintain, gone in seconds. So this poem can have a lot of different perspectives and directions. I might be able to relate to it, or I might not. These could be just words I came up with one day that have absolutely no meaning to me, but I could have just explained how someone else is feeling out there. But anyway, I will now read the next poem, another one with no title. These thoughts of mine feel so wrong, such a waste of time. I ache with envy. It lingers, pushing me aside. It's so close. Lurking in the shadows, taking cover. I am trapped. Yet another poem that can mean so many different things. It could apply to me or it doesn't. I have mentioned before in previous episodes that I tend to overthink and overanalyze a lot. This could have been during one of those moments when my mind was running away with me, getting so deep into my thoughts where I felt trapped. Sometimes I do think that my thoughts are a waste of time, thinking of something that is hypothetical, thinking about things that may never happen. My fear then decides to take over and create this paranoia that has me curdling up in a fetal position, hoping that the shadows lurking do not consume me. Not sure if this was what was going through my head at the time when I wrote this, but I could definitely relate to it in that sense. I have found over the last few years that thinking about things that are stressful or thinking about things that scare me give me panic attacks and I get very anxious, making it feel like I am being trapped inside my head. I can't break free from it. Nothing seems to bring me out of it. It's quite scary. All right, so the next poem I will recite does have a title. This one is called The Black Abyss. As I stare into the black abyss, I hear the waves crashing onto the rough sand. Unaware of my surroundings, I become very afraid. Looking over my shoulder, I sense a presence behind me, a black shadow stalking my every move. I can feel it coming closer, and suddenly my body goes numb. I cannot move, nor can I scream. My eyes go wide. What does it want? Everything goes black. I am no longer afraid. I honestly don't even remember writing this one. The date that was stamped on the Word document doesn't seem accurate, so I can't recall when I actually wrote this poem either. I get the sense of someone being stalked in this poem. I know I have gotten this feeling many times when I am by myself, especially at night. I would come home late at night, and the apartment complex I was living in was pretty big. I would have to park pretty far from my apartment building, and I remember getting super paranoid, as if someone was watching me or following me close behind. With everything that has been going on lately with this COVID thing, it scares me that much more because the crime where I live at the moment has picked up massively, and there have been a lot of things going on where I am honestly afraid to even be walking around at night by myself. I don't like coming home late at night for that reason alone. And for those of you who haven't already figured out, I pre-record my shows. So during the time of writing out this episode, it was back during the end of September, kind of the first or second week of October of 2020. As I had said a few moments ago, the crime has picked up massively around here. Garages have been broken into, things have been stolen, child trafficking and abductions in the area, people breaking our complex entrance and exits gates just to get into the complex, cars being broken into and mailboxes being vandalized and broken into, leading to mail being stolen. Not really a good environment. Prior to all of the 2020's fuckery, is what I call it, if I was by myself anywhere, day or night, I would get weird feelings that someone was either watching me or following me. Whether or not that was true, or whether I was just being paranoid as hell, it's a thing that does not feel good. So if that's what I meant when I was writing this poem, then I can relate to an extent. The end of the poem, however, not so much. The end of the poem indicates that something really bad happened to the person being referred to. A situation that did not end well for that particular individual. Very dark. Okay, kids, with that, I'm afraid that concludes the show. To those of you who are always tuning in, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for sticking it out with me this long. And even those of you who are just joining in, again, a huge thank you for even having an interest or just curious to know what this whole podcast thing is all about. I hope you liked what you heard nonetheless, and tune in next time. You can catch this and future episodes at anchor.fm/Fractured Poet. This episode of Fractured Poet was written and produced by me, Katrina Wisniewski. Music by Alternative Rock Volume 1 and Rock Electronica Volume 4 from freeplaymusic.com. You can also follow me on Instagram at Fractured Poet. And as always, thanks for listening, and until next time.